What a way to start a Monday with Monday Night Football.
What is football? How is football?
Who is football? Honestly, bless your soul if you did not care about the game yesterday, because this will come out on a Tuesday. But man, that game was super stressful, especially if you had any player in your fantasy football team.
We're talking about Eagles New Orleans, right? Because fly, Eagles, fly!
Oh my goodness, that was a game. But again, welcome to another week. We've gone through another week of college basketball. Let's bring it to what we actually are. So I don't think we can top what happened on Monday Night Football anyways, but we'll try to make our best with what we got from this last week. Only 4 teams that we're going to be talking about, and really only 3, I would say, because unfortunately, us, Gonzaga, I almost forgot about what college basketball was at one point this last week.
We can legitimately talk about Gonzaga for this entire dang video, but it won't be productive content.
No, but yeah. So unfortunately, Gonzaga had to cancel all their games or postpone all their games, but they still remain number 1, surprisingly. I mean, not surprisingly, but at least just to hey.
Unless your name is Seth Davis, at which case I got beef with you, bro. I have refrained from tweeting at you every Sunday when you feed your trolls. But bruh, what is with this Baylor bull crap? Gonzaga's number 1.
There's still 7 people that have Baylor as number 1.
And one of them is Seth Davis.
Hey, at least everyone who doesn't have Gonzaga as number 1 is number 2. That's essentially what it is. It's either you have Gonzaga as number 1 or you have Baylor as number 1.
Fair.
And then you have the other one as number 2.
My favorite was the person who replied and said, "Hey, could you put Iowa as number 2?
So that way when we play Gonzaga."
Oh, yeah. It'd be back-to-back 1-2 matchups between them and when they reschedule Baylor.
Yeah.
But anyways, welcome to the top 25. Number 25, Michigan. Number 24, Clemson. The first time we see Clemson this year in the top 25. And a big jump from number 16, Missouri, who had a big win over Illinois. And then goodbye to the top 25, ASU, Virginia Tech, and unfortunately a mid-major team who was number 19, Richmond, had a big loss that we will talk about coming up. Still ranked number 1, Gonzaga. San Diego State jumping up to number 18. Still getting votes. Richmond is getting votes just at number 26.
Because it wasn't a big loss.
It wasn't, but, to 19 to 26.
Yeah, but that's because mid-majors get shit on every time they lose.
That's the thing is they won't get their respect. And then St. Louis did jump up in the rankings within their votes. They gained, I think, 27 votes this last week.
Okay. That's not bad.
From the previous week. So St. Louis is building up their respect into getting into top 25. So it's basically top 25, number 26 would be Richmond, number 27 would be St. Louis. I guess the new segment that we're going to start off, and I guess why not start off with probably the best thing that we've had all last week, that we missed Gonzaga basketball. I guess the team of the week is probably something we'll start with this one. So this last week, there was an upset within the power conferences, and it was Kansas State basketball lost to Fort Hays State 81-68. And to
they
give you a little
lose.
Yes, they didn't lose. They lost bad to Fort Hays. And to give you a little bit more information about who Fort Hays is, they have a 1-3 record on the season. They've played teams like Washburn, Emporia State, Nebraska Kearney, and Newman so far. They play in the Mid-American Intercollegiate Athletics Association, or the MIAA.
Missing in Action Association.
I guess, Rick, why haven't I heard of these teams or this conference? I don't understand why I feel like I've heard of teams that are on the very bottom of KenPom rankings.
Yeah,
why haven't I heard of these teams?
So you haven't heard of teams that are in the Mid-America. You haven't heard of the Washburns and the Emporia State. Mostly because they aren't eligible for the NCAA tournament.
So they can't compete in March Madness, is what
They
you're saying.
cannot compete
Why
in March
can they not
Madness.
compete in March Madness?
They cannot compete in March Madness because they are quite technically not Division I programs.
So if they're not Division One,
That means they have scholarship restrictions, so they don't have a full roster of scholarship players. It means that their facilities are much, much
Crappier. It usually means that their student body is a lot lower.
Their test scores have to be higher in order to earn admission.
Yeah, and just, all of those little details that go into why not just a Division I, but a Power 5
Big 12
team.
lost to a Division II school in a bottom of the Division II conference of what they're in.
How do we know that they're the bottom of their division?
We didn't actually research that. All we had to do was look at their record. What was their record prior to that game?
What I think it was 0-3.
It was 0-3.
Their only win on the season is against Kansas State, and I think they actually lost to Newman, but I'm not 100% sure.
I'm gonna go look.
You go look at this. I don't know what my favorite thing about this all is. I don't know if it's the fact that I've never heard of Fort Hays State, the fact that it's against a power conference team, the fact that they've never won a Division II game going into that game, the fact that Kansas State never had the lead in that game, by the way.
Yep.
And I want to tell you this, Rick. ESPN listed, you know how ESPN lists the positions for every player when you look them up. The positions for every player. Don't look up their team yet. You won't see their schedule on ESPN, by the way. They don't show Division II schedules. You actually have to Google search it, by the way. That's how much I had to look into this. I actually had to look up the team name, basketball, see their schedule from the team's website in order to figure this shit out. So I think my favorite part in all of this is that ESPN lists the players' positions. Are they guards? Are they forwards, centers, etc.? ESPN listed the positions for each of the players except for one guy who was a forward, I believe. Everyone else was listed as ATH.
Athlete.
That is quite literally their position, according to ESPN, was that they are athletes.
Technically, they're Division II athletes.
They are, but unlike just giving their position of guard, they were just like, we didn't do the research either. We're just going to call them athletes. I think out of all this, that is my favorite that is my favorite thing of them all, is that alone. I don't know much more to talk about this.
Well, I'm trying to load it, but apparently, men's basketball.
So trying to load their school webpage, it doesn't load.
Do you understand?
Fort Hays State, you are the team of the week for us. You will be the team of 2020 for us. And
Are you gonna buy one of their T-shirts?
If they sell them, maybe.
I would let you know if
That comes up.
if I could get the website to load. But literally, it is just taking too long to respond.
Fort Hays State, thank you for bringing us so much joy this last week when we missed out on Gonzaga basketball. So moving on, let's just put it away, Rick. Let's just move on. I guess to the team that unfortunately has dropped out of the top 25 rankings in the mid-majors, Richmond, who was number 19. Their record right now is 4-1. They did get 2 wins last week. Not impressive wins, to be honest. First one over Wofford, 77-72. The second win over Northern Iowa, 78-68. Not that, I mean, even those wins alone are impressive. I can justify them dropping in the rankings because of those wins. But the big reason they did lose was they lost bad to number 11 West Virginia. Number 11, I don't know what their ranking is right now. I forgot to look it up this morning, but it was number 11. They lost to West Virginia, 87-71. There are so many bad stats to talk about with this game, especially against West Virginia. I think having at least the 40.4% field goal percentage against West Virginia is justifiable, especially for how good West Virginia is on defense. But 6 for 26 on the 3-point line, 16 total turnovers for Richmond. West Virginia was able to get 19 points off those turnovers. Richmond was able to salvage at least 12 forced turnovers and 9. They were able to get 9 points off those turnovers. What's West Virginia's rank right now?
8.
8. So they were able to jump up 3 spots.
They're 6-1.
Yeah.
They're 6-1 with their lone loss coming against undefeated Gonzaga.
Yeah, and then even on the defensive end for Richmond, I mean, it wasn't that good of a showing of Richmond. 22 assists for West Virginia, so they were able to pass the ball really well against the Spiders. In the last 3 minutes and 43 seconds of the first half, West Virginia went on an 18-4 or 18-3 run, which, I mean, I'm sure it was the dagger right there at the end of the first half, that run.
You go into the locker room and you're like, well, cool, and that's that.
At least we stopped the run.
Essentially what that was. I kind of want to start to look into
Right now, getting into the seasonal stats for some of these teams, just to see like what it is that they're doing so far this season and where it kind of compares between everything. So turnover ratio for Richmond, they're able to have a plus 7.7 turnover ratio, so they're forcing a lot of turnovers comparing to giving up for turnovers. Big turnovers for Richmond. I think their biggest difference was against Kentucky, who is nowhere to be found in the top 25, by the way, even in voting. They were able to force 21 turnovers in Kentucky. They only allowed 10 turnovers themselves, which is impressive. On average, over the season, forcing 18 turnovers. And that's not just because they're playing bad teams like Wofford and Northern Iowa. It's, Kentucky right there. So that's a stat too.
Kentucky's a bad team like Wofford and Northern Iowa.
pretty much. But getting an average of 15 points off those turnovers, you want to get that 1-to-1 kind of ratio that you're scoring off of like every other turnover. The assist to turnover ratio, plus 1.42, which is about 49th high, which is good. For every 3 assists that you get, it's 2 turnovers. So it's not something good to brag about, but it's something to kind of look at to keep in check. But they are averaging 14.7 assists on the season, so they're pretty much turning the ball over 11 times-ish.
Yeah,
in terms of that
10,
ratio.
10,
yeah,
11.
It's 10-11 in that ratio. I guess I feel like there's a lot of knocks that I have on Richmond right now for being a mid-major team. Something that I want them to improve on. Big one, free throws. 64.3% from the free throw line, and they're averaging about 18 attempts.
Yeah.
That's a big stat because they're missing a lot of points there from the free throws.
That's about 6 points a game.
And I really do question how deep this team is because 4 guys are averaging 30 minutes.
Well, it's a mid-major. You don't have depth on mid-majors. You have good systems that balance for the fact that you have to lean heavily on your top 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, no, and that's I feel like that's going to be the biggest question that I'm going to have for Richmond going forward, especially when it comes hopefully to tournament time. Can they at least get into the Sweet 16? That's what I'm going to be looking for these mid-majors at least that are getting into the top 25. Can they get those big upsets? And I want those big upsets from our mid-majors.
I'm calling it now. Richmond gets an unfavorable seed, probably like a 5 or a 6, and loses in the 32.
That's unfavorable. 5 or 6 seed for Richmond.
Well, what's unfavorable about it is you're not a top 4, so you're not going to get friendly opponents all the way to the Sweet 16.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, just looking at the stats for Richmond, not overtly impressed so far in the season. So like I said, just get into the Sweet 16, get those big upsets that I want to see from mid-majors.
Yeah.
Moving on to the team that's still getting votes and getting more and more votes as the weeks go on. So maybe squeak 25 in the coming 2 or 3 weeks. St. Louis, again, not impressive roster or I guess schedule that they have going on right now. But a win over Central Arkansas, 88-65. Their game against Evansville got canceled or postponed, one of the two. I don't really want to talk about the stats of those games, so let's just get into their seasonal stats. 21.2 assists per game.
Yeah.
Which again, like the teams that they're playing are Central Arkansas, Evansville. It hasn't been that impressive of a schedule.
Yeah.
But that's still a big showing.
It shows good. They're playing good basketball. They're
Yeah.
not playing hero ball. They're playing team ball,
Yes.
and they're doing their best to be a team and not be a show off.
Right. And even their assist to turnover ratio, again, I will agree this could very much be an inflated stat. The assist to turnover ratio, 1.89, which is top 10, 8th highest in NCAA so far. Again, I don't know how inflated that stat's going to be once they start to play certain power teams, or at least power conference teams.
Right. And so again, if you're gonna play against weaker competition, and by weaker I mean lower ranked, especially in Ken Palm,
Yeah.
you need to play clean, sharp, good basketball, and that's what they're doing. They're not falling down to the level of their opponent,
No.
and they are not getting lazy or sloppy.
Yeah. But their one game that they have that was really good this season against LSU, total on average in the season 24.5 points off the turnovers. They were only to get 11 against LSU, and they only forced 9 turnovers off LSU. Their season average is 20.75 forced turnovers per game. So that's suggesting to me that a lot of these stats are already pretty inflated.
What it suggests to me is if we look at the defensive side, yes, they're playing against weaker competition, and so they are the superior athletic team. However, going back to your point about your 1-to-1 ratio on turnovers to points, 9 to 11.
Right. Yeah, they were. It's a little bit closer than what we saw with Richmond earlier. And then, and this is the one thing that I will give them praise for. That I don't think it's inflated to an extent. 9.8 3-pointers made per game on average. That, yes, depending on who you play against, you're going to get more and more opportunities to get those numbers up, but you still have to make that shot no matter who you play against.
If you're getting 21 assists a game, it means you're finding the open man and he's taking the open shot. And so whether or not they're playing a style of pass it to the middle and then kick it back out, or if it's drive to the middle and kick it back out, whatever they're doing, they are pulling defenders off the perimeter and letting good shooters light it up.
Yeah. So I'd say like that's the one stat that I would definitely give them praise for that I don't think is inflated at all. So St. Louis, hopefully you keep getting more and more votes as the week goes on. Like I want to see you in the top 25 again, or for the first time, get up there. The team that made the biggest jump in the rankings, at least for the mid-majors, San Diego State, number 18. They had a big win over Arizona State, who was 23, dropped out of the rankings. They won the game 80-68, and overall, like pretty good stats across the board. 44.3% shooting from the field, 8 for 25 3-pointers, points in the paint. They were able to get 36 points in the paint against Arizona's 8.
ASU, what you doing?
I think they were just chucking up 3 balls.
Pac-12 basketball.
Pac-12 basketball.
And probably the bigger stat, I would say, I mean, this kind of helps with the points in the paint. 11 offensive rebounds, 17 second chance points.
You know what's hilarious about this is I watched like 10 seconds of that game, but in it, I saw their coach wearing a shirt that said "Guard You," and you know what?
You know what those stats tell me? They don't have no post players. So congrats on self-identifying what your university is.
But overall, like these are really good stats, especially against a team that was in the top 25 and a team that will probably make the tournament. Arizona State.
The Pac-12 is going to get 2 to 3 teams in
each and every year. Overall in the season for San Diego State, assist to turnover ratio not looking all that good. 1.25.
But San Diego's not known for their offense.
No. But but still, this stat I would say is not inflated. With the other stats I'll bring up with it, 17.2 forced turnovers on average per game. They were able to get 15 off of UCLA and get 13 off of ASU. That stat's not inflated. That's a legit stat. Turnover ratio, however, +6. 10 to UCLA and 12 to ASU.
Yeah.
So they're getting against these higher ranked teams, or at least big competition teams. They're showing it. They're showing why we have these stats.
Yeah.
Do you want me to get to the biggest knock on them, or do you want to talk about something?
I disagree that that's a knock.
2 guys in double-digit points.
Yeah, again, San Diego State's not an offensive team. If you want to get playing time in that on that roster, you have to play defense. If you don't play defense, you don't see the court. So you could be a lights out shooter, but not play defense, James Harden. And you're not going to see the court because that's not the style of basketball that coach preaches.
Yeah.
And so
Going back, 17.2 forced turnovers. Great. That means if your opponent... So here's the thing, is they're averaging 75.6 points per game. If your opponents aren't averaging that and are averaging less than that, you're still going to win.
Yeah.
It also has to do with pace of play and all of that too.
Yeah, and that's something I will mention this as well, is that with San Diego State, even though that, yes, there's 2 guys with double-digit points, Jordan Shackle with 15.2 and Matt Mitchell with 12.6. Like, beyond that, it was like 9 points, like 9 points per game, 9 points per game, like 7.6 point games, 7.6 points per game, 6 points. Like, they were all pretty clustered together, and it's a pretty deep team, I would say, overall.
I would like to start looking at stats at the points per 100 or points per possession stat.
That would be good to get that going for them. So San Diego State, please keep climbing the rankings like you did last year.
Yeah.
Like, get back up in the top 5.
Let's get a undefeated San Diego State, get the 2 seed in the in
Region 1.
Region 1 or whatever, whatever the West is now with this ridiculous regions going on. So then, unfortunately, we can't talk about Gonzaga this last week, even though it was going to be against like teams like Tarleton, Southern, and Northern Arizona were going to be the games like we were going to talk about this week. So we probably wouldn't have talked much about those games anyways. But their upcoming game, which, I mean, you look at the first 4 games of the season. They had to start off against Kansas. Then they had to play Auburn. Then they had to go and play West Virginia. And now their 4th game of the season will be against number 3 Iowa.
Yep.
How is this Gonzaga schedule?
Play anyone, anywhere.
Just like BYU. Only we don't lose to Coastal Carolina.
So just more going to be talking about what we're going to be expecting from Iowa. I will say some of their personal stats could be inflated.
Iowa is rounding into form.
They're starting to gel.
Yes, I would say this, like, they are a solid team. I would say if you look at Luka Garza's points per game, which is like 35.
Yeah.
Let's look at the 2 games that actually matter. The one against Northern Carolina and the one against Iowa State. Let's just look at those 2 games. Let's minus out all the rest of their games because I think there's some inflation between those games. But the games against North Carolina, Iowa State, Iowa averaging about 49.6% from the field, 40% from the 3-point line. They were able to go 17 for 40 against North Carolina and 11 for 29 against Iowa State. So they can shoot the 3 ball really well. It's not going to be just down low inside. 14 offensive rebounds on average between those 2 games, 21 assists average. That is impressive.
You know who's better?
Gonzaga.
And their turnover ratios, on average, they were forcing 17.5 turnovers. They only gave up 9 turnovers on average.
Okay.
So it's going to be a tough team, and the guy that everyone's going to be looking at
Drew Timmy!
Everyone who's going to be looking at this game for Iowa, Luca Garza, 6'11", 265 pounds. In those 2 games, averaged 25 points, 34 of which were against Iowa State.
That's a twig.
He averaged 8.5 rebounds, but only got 3 against Iowa State, by the way, which means he got a ton against North Carolina.
Well, he's too busy scoring. He didn't pad He didn't pad his stat book by missing getting the O rebound and putting it back.
True. He did get 4 blocks against North Carolina, but 0 against Iowa State. I just kind of wanted to at least compare and contrast those 2 games against each other, because there was that one game where it's like, okay, he was showing more of this in this game, but not that in the other game.
Yeah.
So he's definitely going to be someone that everyone's going to be looking after, and it's going to be the question of, can at least Timmy guard him?
Timmy doesn't need to guard him per se. Timmy needs to go shot for shot with him.
Right, and that's going to be the matchup. I feel like
If Timmy can equal him, the rest of our team can outperform the rest of Iowa.
Yeah, and and obviously that's going to be the matchup to be looking out for between those 2. I guess the big question that I'm going to have, do games against Northern Carolina Central, Southern, Western Illinois, and Northern Illinois help Iowa? Because we didn't have these exhibition games. Gonzaga didn't have their easy week this last week with Tarleton, Southern, Northern Arizona, and the University of Idaho today. They didn't have those practice games.
Correct.
Is having those practice games for Iowa help them
Yes.
in this game?
Yes. So Iowa, like I said, has rounded into form a little bit over the past week. They were a little bit rough around the edges, but they finally found their rhythm and their groove, been able to figure out what each other's tendencies are, and are playing more to that level. So it's helping their offense.
Yeah, and then I guess the question in reverse is, does Gonzaga missing out on their easy games hurt them?
No. As evidenced by the game against Kansas, their offense is already pretty decent. And we're also not playing as heavy of an assist style this year, because we have more slashers in our guards. And because it's better to have a rested and healed Jalen Suggs than it is to have.
That would be the good thing about having this break, is having Suggs back to 100%. So again, final score, MVP.
MVP, Ayeyi's going to get his first triple-double.
Okay.
And final score.
Assists, rebounds, and points.
Yes, sir.
Jeez, okay.
He might even get a quadruple-double with steals. But if he does that, he's also going to have 10 turnovers and go for the septuple double. Which I would be okay with it. If he has
across the board, it's just
if he has double digits in every stat line, including fouls. He like fouls out and then gets like a technical from the bench. So Ayeyi's gonna get a triple double. And it's only going to be like 12 or 13 points, but it's going to be 10 rebounds. Or it's going to be 12 rebounds. And 10 assists. And final score, I'm going to go with 85-77.
Yeah, I was thinking about that range too. Like, that's where I was at before all this. I'm going to say, I will say 77 Iowa as well. I'm going to go 82 Gonzaga. I'm going to be like right about there for that. MVP, I'm going to go off the bench and go Nembhard.
Okay.
I want to see Nembhard get the MVP of the game. So that's where we have it, I guess. So this coming up week, only 4 teams at least who are getting votes for the mid-majors to look out for. St. Louis playing Indiana State on the 15th and Minnesota on the 20th.
If they win that Minnesota game, they get ranked.
Yeah, they're going to be in the top 25 for sure. Richmond's going to be playing Vanderbilt on the 16th and Tuscany
On the 19th, San Diego State having a mid-major showdown, I guess we can say it. San Diego State taking on BYU on the 18th, and then Gonzaga playing number 3 Iowa on the, I did not look up the date for this one.
It's Saturday.
It is Saturday, whatever Saturday, the 19th.
Yes.
'Cause
Yes.
The 20th is Sunday. I know that for sure.
And the 18th is the last day of school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
So, I mean, it'll be a good way to celebrate the end of the semester for all of the students. So, thank you all for watching this video. I hope to see you all next week. So, please stay safe and please stay healthy. Christmas is almost here.
go Zags.